So how do we know anything? Really, when you talk about it, how do human beings know anything? Now, this is Yah himself talking, and he's talking to Moshe in this book of Devarim, chapter 4, and he's talking about knowledge. Did ever people hear the voice of Elohim speaking out of the midst of the fire as you have heard and lived? Or has Elohim essayed to go and take him a nation from the midst of another nation by temptations, by signs, by wonders, and by war, and by a mighty hand, and by a stretched out arm, and by great terrors, according to all that Yahweh Elohim did for you in Mitzrayim before your eyes? And of course, this is this is kind of the mind boggler as we prepare for second Pesach, that is going to celebrate this business of being taken out of the land of captivity, taken out of the land of slavery, but more importantly, being called a people, When Yah says, I have chosen you, the seed of Yasharel, as my firstborn son, the 22 generations of the patriarchs from Adam to Yaakov, that's 22 generations in a direct line, reflected by the 22 letters of the Hebrew Aleph Beit. These 22 generations, the 22 species of mankind that exist, the 22 species of mankind, also given to us in accord with the 22 letters of the Hebrew Aleph Beit. Then what happens? The 12 tribes of Yasharel become the seed of Yasharel, the firstborn son, from which Mashiach would be born. From this same seed, the seed of the woman, Mashiach would come out of these tribes. And it's not just the 12 tribes, but those who sojourn with them, And so you see that this group of people, this nation of people were called out, and they weren't called out because they were smart or because they were the best looking or because they were fast or because they were rich or anything else. They were called out because they would guard the Shabbat. And he called them out of Mitzrayim, and he did. So, when you look at the first commandment says, right, it says, Anoki Yahweh Elohecha, I am Yah, your Elohim. Now, that's the claim. This is the truth claim, right? I am Yah, your Elohim. Okay, all right. So you're claiming that's true? Yes, I'm claiming that's true. Now we're going to get two witnesses to that claim. First witness, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim. Well, did that happen? Absolutely did. Nobody in any history text anywhere disagrees with the idea that the whole of the house of Yasharel was drawn out of Egypt and from slavery. And the second witness is, brought you out of slavery. I brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, and I brought you out of slavery. Okay, what was the invading army that conquered Pharaoh and set the slaves free? Oh, that's right, there wasn't one. What was the civil war that happened like it happened in the United States to set the slaves free? Oh, that's right, there wasn't one. What was it that brought out the house of Yasharel out of the land of Mitzrayim? Well, insurance guys would tell you when they look at that record, oh, those were all, quote unquote, acts of God, right? The insurance company, we're not going to insure for acts of God because that's what these were. No question that historically this was the hand of Yah moving, and he's telling us here, look, not only did I take you out of the land of Mitzrayim, but I spoke to you in the midst of the fire myself. You heard my voice, right? This is one way you can know. But that's assuming that you have ears that hear and that understand what you're hearing. Okay, let's take a look at the next slide here. Unto you it was showed that you might know that Yahweh, he is Elohim. There is none else beside him. All right, now look, those people who want to divide Elohim from Yahweh. Well, we had Elohim, who are the fallen watchers, and then you have Yahweh, who's the evil guy living in Antarctica. I mean, I've heard this stuff on the History Channel and stuff. No, I mean, here's the text right here. You might know that Yahweh, he is Elohim. There is none else beside him. Out of heaven, he made you to hear at his voice. Once again, when we talk about the oral law, let's don't talk about the lie. Hey, we're going to talk about the oral law. What's the oral law? That's the law that we said to one another. Blah, 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 blah. What do you think? Oh, I think this, yeah, blah, 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 blah. Great, now we have an oral law. No, The oral law is what was spoken at Mount Horeb out of the fire in the midst of you. It was his voice. Out of heaven, he made you to hear at his voice, that he might instruct you, and upon earth he showed you at his great fire, and you heard his words out of the midst of the fire. I'm not making this accusation up to talk about the people at the base of Mount Horeb saying you didn't hear anything. No, this is Moshe saying it right in Devarim. It's in every copy of the Torah, these exact same with these words, right? That you heard the words out of the midst of the fire. And because he loved at your fathers, therefore he chose their seed after them and brought you out in his sight with his mighty power out of Mitzrayim. Okay? So again, those who have ears and can hear need to understand what it was that was said. This is the oral law, not something that some man made up. Okay, let's take a look at Romans for a moment. This is Paul writing. When we talk about how do we know? How do we know? How is it possible to perceive, to have ears that hear and can understand, eyes that see and can perceive, such that we yada, know? For the wrath of Yah is revealed from heaven against all wickedness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness. A critical factor. Take the truth and then we drag it into unrighteousness, because that which may be known of Yah is manifest in them. For Yahweh has showed it unto them. In other words, you can't sit here and say, oh, I don't know who God is. I just don't know if there's a God or not. I don't believe in that. He has manifested himself in you such that you know. For from the creation of the world, the invisible things of Yah are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and divinity, so that they are without excuse. Okay, let's talk about this for a minute. We talk about the invisible things of Yah. Let's get out the pencil and paper here, and let's do some drawing. Okay, pencil and paper. Maybe you get a blue pen, or maybe you could just use pencil. But on your paper now, let's draw out the essence of life. Okay, what color is it? What shape is it? What texture is it? What's its geometry? How big is it? How small is it? The essence of life. While we're there, let's draw out meaning. What's that look like, meaning? We know a word means something. What is meaning here? What's that look like? What's its shape? What's its materialness? What color is it? How about truth? There's one for us. We should be able to draw that out. Truth. Truth looks like what? What's its shape? There is no shape, because life, meaning, and truth have no material essence. They have no material essence. They have nothing visible that you can see. But there's no question that we have life. If you want to argue there's no life, okay, go ahead and argue, but no fair being alive while you're doing it. If you want to argue there's no consciousness, argue it, but no fair using your consciousness to argue it. Okay? There are things that are just axiomatic. You can't miss them. They're right in front of your face, and they are invisible. They are invisible. And yet we take them for granted and live by them every day. If I were to tell you, for instance, that the bus is going to be at the corner of 1st and 33rd at 8:38 p.m., and you need to catch it to get home, the meaning of that is not blah, 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 right? I'm not just uttering some kind of vocalization sound that your ears hear. I'm sending to you a series of vocalizations that have particular constructs in the sound waves, and those constructs are cognized in your brain in an invisible understanding between me and you that says you know what I'm talking about, the meaning of words. So, for instance, it's equally true. For instance, let's say you won $1 million in the lottery. Now, if you won $1 million in the lottery and that's just true, it's just a fact, that's what happened. Well, I could tell you that. I could call you up on the phone and tell you. I could call you. I could send you an email. I could send you a text message. I could send you a Snapchat. I could put it up on Instagram. I could write you a Facebook message. I could have a guy run it over by Telegram. I could have a delivery service delivered to you. It makes no difference how I convey the message. The truth of the message exists no matter what material form it takes. See?